said it looked like a clean kill. No blood, no tracks, no sign of a struggle. Just a single cow, lying in the middle of an open field, its organs removed with surgical precision, its flesh cauterized as if by heat, and no clue who or what had done it. At first, locals blamed cults, then Satanists, then the military. But when entire herds began turning up dead across multiple states, the panic grew so loud that even the FBI had to step in. What they found in those fields would haunt investigators for decades. But before we get into that, be sure to like and subscribe, then leave a comment on what vault files you want to hear about next. Because tonight, we're opening one of the strangest FBI cases ever recorded, the cattle mutilations of 1970. It started quietly. One ranch, one field, one dead cow. Then another, and another. By the summer of 1974, reports were pouring in from across the Midwest, Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, and even South Dakota. Cattle were being found dead under circumstances that defied logic, and in each case, the scene was identical. The animal's eyes were gone, tongues missing, reproductive organs neatly removed, and every incision perfectly smooth. So clean that veterinarians said it couldn't have been done by any known animal, or even most ranch tools. But what really terrified people wasn't the precision. It was the absence of blood. Each carcass looked drained completely. No blood on the ground, no pooling beneath the animal, no signs of a predator's struggle. It was as if something or someone had performed surgery in the middle of nowhere and vanished. Sheriffs tried to make sense of it. They searched for tire tracks, boot prints, even evidence of cult activity. Nothing. Not even a broken blade of grass. Local news reports began to swarm the small towns where these strange mutilations occurred. Some claimed UFOs were responsible. Others whispered about secret government projects. And for every rumor that faded, 3 more took its place. By 1975, the hysteria reached Washington. The mutilations weren't isolated anymore. They were national. That is when the FBI got involved. By 1975, panic gripped the heartland. Ranchers were arming themselves. Helicopters were being shot at in the night sky, and state police departments were fielding dozens of calls a day from terrified citizens reporting strange lights, unmarked aircraft, and beings in the field. By 1975, panic gripped the heartland. Ranchers were arming themselves. Helicopters were being shot at in the night sky, and state police departments were fielding dozens of calls a day from terrified citizens reporting strange lights, unmarked aircraft, and beings in the field. The pressure grew so intense that governors started demanding answers. And that is when the FBI officially stepped in. In August of that year, Special Agent Kenneth Rommel was assigned to investigate what is now being called the cattle mutilation phenomenon. Rommel's orders were simple: determine who or what was behind it. He began combing through hundreds of reports from law enforcement agencies across the country. Each case seemed identical, yet utterly devoid of evidence. No footprints, no blood, no forced entry into the ranches. Nothing stolen except parts. Rommel traveled from state to state, visiting sites where the killings had occurred. He found that police were just as confused as the ranchers themselves. In some counties, officers swore the mutilations happened the same night people saw lights darting across the sky. In others, strange helicopters were spotted hovering silently over rural farms just hours before the carcasses turned up. The FBI gathered witness statements describing unidentified aircraft, silent beams of light, and even men in suits who appeared after each incident, collecting samples before anyone could ask questions. But the deeper Rommel dug, the stranger it got. Some of the cases were so bizarre that even government scientists were called in to study them. In one report, an investigator noted that tissue samples appeared to have been cauterized, with heat exceeding normal surgical tools. Another report suggested some of the cow's organs had been removed from the inside out, as if something had reached through solid flesh. When Rommel asked the Air Force for help, they denied involvement. When he reached out to the Department of Agriculture, they did the same. But rumors began to spread that certain agencies were already aware of what was happening, and had been for years. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the mutilation started to slow. The hysteria faded. The lights in the sky disappeared. But the reports never stopped completely. And when Rommel turned in his final report in 1980, it left more questions than answers. By the time the FBI released its official report, the agency's stance was clear. There was no evidence of organized human activity, cult involvement, or extraterrestrial interference. In short, nothing to see here. But for ranchers who'd watched their livestock carved open with surgical precision, that explanation didn't fly. The FBI's rational conclusions boiled the phenomenon down to scavengers, natural decay, and human hysteria. According to the report, predators could selectively consume soft tissue, leaving behind what appeared to be surgical incisions. But the ranchers who'd seen it up close disagreed. Some said the incisions were too clean, too exact. Others said the animals had been drained completely of blood, something no predator could do. Then there was the helicopter theory. Throughout the 1970s, witnesses across Colorado, Nebraska, and New Mexico reported seeing dark, unmarked helicopters hovering over fields where mutilations later occurred. No registration numbers, no lights, no sound. When locals tried to chase them, they vanished into the distance like ghosts. The Air Force once again denied involvement. But leaked memos later revealed that certain classified operations involving low-altitude helicopter surveillance were indeed taking place in the same regions at the same time. That gave a rise to another theory. The government itself was behind the mutilations. According to some insiders, the Air Force and the Department of Energy were conducting covert radiation experiments on livestock, using rural animals as biological monitors for fallout exposure, testing blood, organs, and tissue in secret. And when the public started asking too many questions, the reports were quietly buried under natural causes. But others believed something even darker was happening. The FBI's own files included letters from citizens and local law enforcement officers suggesting non-human entities might be responsible. The FBI never confirmed or denied the claim, but they did redact certain names and notes marking them Security Matter X. For those of you who don't know, that's the same classification used decades earlier for unexplained aerial phenomena, or UAP. Coincidence? Maybe. But one unredacted line in the file stood out. It read, "Agency officials observed no rational explanation consistent with known human technology." For years, that single sentence has haunted researchers because it implies one thing. Whatever was mutilating these animals wasn't just beyond human understanding. It was beyond human capability. By 1979, the official investigation into the cattle mutilations was quietly closed. No arrest, no suspects, no definitive answers. The FBI chalked it up to natural causes, blamed scavengers, and moved on. But for the ranchers who lived it, the scars ran deeper than the ones found on their livestock. In Colorado, some ranchers went bankrupt after losing dozens of head of cattle. Insurance companies refused to pay, labeling the mutilations acts of nature. The government offered sympathy, but no solutions. The local sheriffs continued to keep unofficial logs long after the FBI pulled out. One sheriff in Dulce, New Mexico, claimed he'd personally documented over 30 mutilations in a single year, each identical in precision, each missing the same organs, each drained of blood. And though the federal agency stopped investigating, the phenomenon didn't stop. Reports of mutilated cattle, sometimes horses, even deer, kept surfacing across the Midwest and Southwest well into the 2000s. The pattern never changed. The explanations never added up. In 1993, the Mutual UFO Network, or MUFON, released a comprehensive study tying these mutilations to the sighting of unidentified aerial craft. Others argued it was the work of cults, rogue scientists, or even secret military testing of new weapons or biological agents. But the truth? Well, it's still sealed somewhere, in the vaults of agencies that long ago decided the public didn't need to know. To this day, no one has been caught, no clear motive has been established, and no single theory can explain every case. What began as an isolated mystery in the farmlands of the American West became a symbol of something larger: our uneasy relationship with the unknown, and our government's long history of denying what it can't easily explain. The FBI's file on cattle mutilations may be officially closed, but in small towns across America, ranchers still look to the skies when they find another carcass, clean, precise, and cold as steel. Because out here, the mystery was never solved. It just stopped making headlines. Maybe the most unsettling part of this story isn't the mutilations themselves, but the silence that followed afterwards. An entire decade of bloodless carcasses, precision cuts, and unexplained lights in the sky. And when the files finally landed on the FBI's desk, they simply vanished back into the void. Because in the end, the Bureau didn't solve the mystery. They just filed it away. If you enjoyed diving into this case, hit the like button, subscribe, and tell us in the comments what vault files you want us to open next. Until then, keep your lights on, your mind open, and remember, some cases aren't closed. They're just waiting to be reopened. Take care.